I'm just finished cleaning up the heads after I had them at my buddy's shop there, and we put in the new valves. And this valve here was really bad. That was the one that was open, and it got the most corrosion on it. And we were managed to recut the valve seats, and then use some lapping compound like this here, and relap them, and now they don't leak anymore. So what I went ahead and did was after that, and I'm no expert at this, but this is what I've been told, and what's proper to do is to lap the cylinder heads into the seats here. So that's what I'm doing right now. This one's already been done and it's ready to go onto the engine. It turned out really great. I'm really happy about it, that I saved the heads. And this one needs to be cleaned up yet. I've lapped this cylinder. This is number 3 and then number 4. So I got 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I'm just going to take some lapping compound and put it into here. Try not to get it everywhere. And just where the cylinder makes contact onto the head. This will help make a good seal. I'm just going to wipe off a little bit of that excess without rubbing it too much. Alright, I just take my head, this is number 4 cylinder, put it into here, and we just rotate it back and forth. And I'll just continue to do that a little bit until I get a really nice seat. Not too long, not too much on it, but just enough to make sure that surface area is nice, really nice and flat, and it sits nicely. Okay, I finished lapping it now, and now I'm just going to go ahead and clean the whole head up, everything on it, all inside here, and then make sure all these surface areas are nice and smooth and flat, and then it'll be ready to go on the engine. Okay, I'm all finished cleaning it up now. The surface area here where the cylinder sits on is nice and clean now, and it should make a good seal. And then just cleaned it up, so it's nice and clean. All the surfaces for the gaskets and everything are nice and good to go. So let's go ahead and put the cylinders on the engine, and then we can torque and install these. I'm just tapping these pistons down to get at the conrod pins, and align it up so that this one will be flat, facing each other, each cylinder, and the arrow that's indicated on the piston will be facing the clutch. Just finishing prepping these cylinders before I go ahead and put them on. I don't like, on two-stroke bikes, I don't mind these clips. They had the other retainer clips that came off it with the holes on it, that you use a different tool. I much prefer them, but kind of push for time to get this together to get it back on my buggy, so I'm just going to go ahead with these clips. It's not my first choice, but I'm going to use them. They came with the kit. I'm also going to use Ultra Gray. A lot of times guys say Yamaha Bond. The reason why I'm using the Ultra Gray, for some reason we can't get Yamaha Bond here. I'm not sure if it's anywhere else, but here in Canada they're not using it anymore. So I went to Yamaha and talked to them, and they suggest they use now Ultra Gray, and I'm not sure if it's supply and demand kind of thing. or what it is, but they suggest, and that's what they're using, is ultra gray now, I guess. So I'm going to go ahead and put this clip in. Sits right in there, and I like to grab one end here and just rotate it slightly a bit to make sure that it's sitting in there. I'm also putting the clip on the flat side of the cylinder. So when I put it on the engine, I'm putting the pin from the opposite sides of each other when they go in, so I don't have any issues with putting in the clip, because it'll be on the outside of the engine. And then I'm just going to go ahead and use some of this red line assembly lube, and oops, a little bit messy there. I'll take one of my pins and cover it really good in assembly lube, and inside here to make it so I'm putting it in and out. I'll just put a little bit more on the inside there. So when I'm installing it, it should just slip right in nice and easy. And a little bit in there, and then I'll just go ahead and push that out. But I'll go ahead and do that to every cylinder, and then what we're going to do is put the ultra gray on this surface here, and that'll help seal it to the block. Just need a little bit of ultra gray on, just a small bead. All right, we're just going to go ahead and slip it on using this flat side, and the pin on that side, and we just push it through and put the pin in easily. So I also got the con rod on top dead center for number 1. There we go. I'm just using a socket just to make sure the pin's pushed in all the way. And with my needle nose for 2 strokes, what I do is I cut notches out onto the needle nose so it holds these clips better, and make sure that the springs face outward. Okay, and just go ahead and just slip that in there. What I like to do with these ones is pull on each one a little bit, push and pull, and then what I like to do is I like to rotate it from one side and then grab the other side of it and rotate it. Then I know it's set in there. I was going to tap it down just slightly just to make sure it sets down. There, we're good. Okay, 1 down, 3 more to go. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate it counterclockwise from top dead center to bottom dead center, and that'll bring my con rod out at top dead center so I can go ahead and install the next sleeve. I'll go ahead and install these shields. These are for keep the airflow onto the cylinder heads, to keep it the air even for cooling. These are really important to have in. And they should snap in place here. Kind of like that. There we go. Okay, I got my lifter rod tubes here. I'm just going to reuse the old ones. I cleaned them up and put a new coating of VHT on them. And when you install these, they have a seam in them, and they're supposed to face upwards because they'll be laying like this. on your engine, so that if this ever opens up, you don't have leaking oil. So everyone says these are really sharp. They are really sharp. And we're just going to use some former gasket aviation from Tex and install these on each tube. So I'll just scoop some of this on here. Give me a good seal so I don't get any, hopefully no oil leaks. Like that, and then I'll take my O-ring washer here and then put it over top like that. Oops. And put the flat side down. I'll go ahead and do that to all of them, and then install them onto the engine and get ready to put the head on. Like that. Okay, I'm installing the rod tubes and keeping the seam up. All right, those are on now. Let me see if they won't fall off. See if we can get this on. There we go. Going down. I'll just guide these into each hole. See if we can get this my first shot. There we go. Takes a little bit of time. There we go. It'll all just sit on there. I just got to turn these slightly a little bit just to seat them. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 3mm, 13mm socket with extension on it and just kind of center them, making sure we don't drop the center each one. So I'm going to apply a little bit of aviation sealer to that. Okay, well, I guess the idea behind this is this little hole here where the bolt is and the washer sits flush with the head. When there's oil moving in here, it could potentially just leak out of the cylinder here. And I guess that's what you're trying to avoid by doing this. We're ready to torque it down. It says 7 pounds, but my torque wrench only goes to 10 pounds. So I'm just going to do a 10 pound on all these, and our torque pattern is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There we go. Three. 6, 7, 8. All right. So we're going to have to go through the pattern again, and we're going to go at 15 pounds, then 20 pounds, and then their final torque is going to be 23 pounds. But our next pattern, we're going to switch it up now, and we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we're going to do the last 3 torques on a cross pattern. Okay, we're in our last torquing at 23 pounds, and we're up to 23 now, so this will be our final torque. Oops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. All right, so now we can go ahead and install our O-rings on here. A little bit of assembly lube. Got my little O-rings here, and I'll slip them in like that. And I'll just take a tiny little bit more and put it on there like that. Right. And any excess here I had, I'll just wipe off. Just because. All right. Now we're going to go ahead and install our rockers. I also, before I get to putting the rockers on, I ordered a set of lashing caps. You don't have to install these. They're 8mm lash caps. They're just little caps that sit on top of your lifters like that. Guys put these on high performance engines. They also put them onto stainless steel valves so that the lifters don't damage them. They also protect your valves in any situation. So I mean, if you have whether you have the regular valves or stainless steel, in any regards, it's going to protect the tops and wear these down before it wears your valves. So it's basically valve savers. Okay, so now that I'm at this point, I'm going to go ahead and install the rods. It goes back together in the same order it was. Also with these rods here, a lot of guys, what they do is suggest is, because oil does flow through these, is to take a rod and push it through to make sure that the holes are free and clear, which I've already done. Well, what else I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a little bit of assembly lube to each side of these. Doesn't hurt to put this anywhere. Like anywhere metal is going to touch metal. And we'll just go ahead and do that to all of them. So that's just for initial startup, so you don't get any excessive wear right off this start before you get the oil flowing through the engine. Hey, here's my rockers here. What I went ahead and did was I went and ordered all new adjustment bolts, and I'm going to go ahead and put these on all new, because these ones are worn out. They got excessive wear on them, and so I'm just going to go ahead and switch them all out. Right, I got the assembly lube all over my lifters, and the new adjusting we're just going to set in our rods into the cups. Oops. Just like that. Oops. There we go. Okay, they're all into the cups. All new adjusters, and we're just going to go ahead and torque this down now. These heads don't have the clip-ons. They have these spacer nuts, and that's what holds onto the top of the cap, and you bolt it down from the top. Some guys say these leak, some guys don't. I haven't had them leak, but that's what I had with this engine, so I'm just going to go ahead and use them. All right, we'll torque these down to 18 foot-pounds is what it says in the book, so that's what I'm going to go by. Right, I'm just going to adjust these valves before I put the cover back on it to go to the other side. And I'm just going to, they're loose right now because it's at, the distributor is at the number 1 cylinder. It's at top dead center, and the valves are loose right now. I'm just going to go down and get them to touch, and then I'm just going to back them off a quarter and turn it and tighten it up. Then later, once I'm getting ready to run it because I can't seem to find my feeler gauges, then I'll set it with a feeler gauge. But that'll get me into the close range where it won't put a lot of stress onto any of the valves. So when you set your valves, you start off with top dead center on number 1, and if you go in reverse and go to bottom dead center, you go to number 2. You turn it again in reverse to top dead center, it goes to number 3, and you turn it again and it goes to number 4. That way when you're adjusting it underneath the car, you can just do 1, 2, and then go to the other side and do the other 2. Okay, so we're at top dead center. So the distributor's on number 1, top dead center. My valves are loose, and I'm just going to go ahead and get them to touch. They're just touching there, touching there, touching there. And what I'm going to do is, they're just touching, so I'm just going to go quarter turn off, and then I'm just going to tighten it up. Once I go ahead and okay, just touching this down, and I'll turn it a quarter turn off and tighten it up. Okay, Now I'll go in reverse. Go to bottom dead center. And it's on number 2 cylinder now. They're both loose. So I'll back this off, back the other one off, and I'll do the same. Bring it down so it just touches. Bring this one down so it just touches. Right. And go ahead and back it off a quarter turn. And tighten it up. Back it off a quarter turn, tighten it up. That just gets me in my range, but I'll have to go back and the feeler gauges and reset it. Right. So that's done. Now my last step is just to put the cover on for now, so nothing gets in there, and then I'll revisit this later. So there's my gasket and my cover. Make sure it's all in there good. And I'll go ahead and put my bolts back in. There, that was easy. I just got to go and do the other side now, just the same process to the other side. And then I can start putting the rest of the engine together and getting it ready to run. There's no torque setting on these, but I would imagine it would be roughly, with the size 13 bolt, probably about 18 pounds, 15 to 18 pounds. Okay, I'm going to go and do the exact same process to the other side. Okay, the engine's starting to come together pretty good now. I'm just getting this loosely set up for the intake and carburetor. I got my gaskets on for my intakes, and I switched out these covers, these engine covers, to BAJA ones. The ones I had originally came out and they're not trimmed up really nice like these ones, and they show the heads a little bit better. It's really starting to come together now, so I'll just tighten these up and then get ready, making sure they're sitting down, and then get ready to put the intakes on. What's nice about, well, any of the covers too, they all have like your cylinder on it, like cylinder 1, cylinder 2. It's marked right onto the covers, which is kind of nice. Same with the other side. The other covers do too, have the cylinder 1, cylinder 2, cylinder 3, cylinder 4. What I use here is Autosol. I like this Autosol metal polish. It works really great. I just put a buffing wheel onto my drill press and put a really thin coat of Autosol onto the aluminum parts, and this stuff's great for polishing any type of aluminum or any type of metal, brass, whatever you have. That Autosol really polishes up nice. It looks great. Looks like brand new again. And I'll just go ahead and put this into here and start plumbing this in. Alright, I got my fan on the doghouse all bolted in off, and then those side shields in the doghouse in. There's a little bit of playing around to get it, because it's brand new, to get it all to line up. It took me a little bit tweaking it here and there. It seems to be lining up pretty good. This is all still pretty loose. I'm going to get on the other side now, the intake, and then put the carb on, get the belt on, and we'll put the exhaust system on. The gasket here for the carburetor. The carburetor is going to go on next. Aviation former gasket. This is the paper gasket I made, and we'll just go ahead and cover the whole thing. It fits right on there really good. That should make a really good seal. The last little bits of the carburetor, with the air cleaner on it. Can't wait to hear this thing fire up. That's just what does it there. Let's tighten that down now. I had a buddy of mine, he does graphic design work for cars, decals, for all kinds of things, and I designed this, sent him a picture, and he did it up on his computer and then cut it out for me, and then I installed it with some soap and water and got it positioned where I want it to, and then peeled it off. Those are vinyl stickers instead of painting. There we go. Cover those on top. Washers. These washers have rubber on them. Keep them from vibrating off, I believe. Spin tops. Just about finished. Now I just got to put the exhaust on, and the exhaust I got dual. I'm not sure what they're called. They're like dual cannons. I'm getting ready to gap these spark plugs. I got a set of Bosch, and they're 79026. That's what I was recommended to run in these. Recommended to run, but they are Bosch, and they come said it looks like it was at 24, and I'm gapping them out at 28, and we'll go ahead and install that in there. just finished up doing the final touches on the engine. We put on a set of dual exhaust straight pipes. I finished up doing the wiring with the spacers. We also put on the fuel lines, and we did the electrical and braid it just to keep it all nice and clean. I think that's about everything that we've done with the engine. So it's a 1600cc dual port AE block, 1972 to 1974. It's got a mild street cam in it, 87 millimeter pistons, so it's a 1641. This carburetor's 3238, and with dual intakes on it. Should be a pretty good engine. I can't wait to hear what these pipes sound like. So if you liked anything on my video, please hit the like button. Really appreciate that. If you want to share it or subscribe, really appreciate it. All right, we'll see you in the next one when I get this thing on my buggy and get to hear what it sounds like.